On February 14th, 1990, NASA's Voyager 1 space probe, then approaching 4 billion miles distance from our sun, took this image. This was the final time Voyager would look back at home, look back at us, before continuing its journey into interstellar space. In the image you can see the Earth suspended in a sunbeam. The image was the brainchild of Carl Sagan, a planetary scientist, popular science educator, and humanist. He wanted to find a way to show how small we are against the great cosmic darkness that envelops us. The image ultimately inspired a book, Pale Blue Dot, A Vision of the Human Future in Space. And in that book is this reflection on human life. Look again at that dot. That's here. That's home. That's us. On it, everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you ever heard of, every human being who ever was, lived out their lives. The aggregate of our joy and suffering, thousands of confident religions, ideologies, and economic doctrines, every hunter and forager, every hero and coward, every creator and destroyer of civilization, every king and peasant, every couple in love, every mother and father, hopeful child, inventor and explorer, every teacher of morals, every corrupt politician, every superstar, every supreme leader, every saint and sinner in the history of our species lived there, on a mote of dust, suspended in a sunbeam. The Earth is a very small stage in a vast cosmic arena. Think of the rivers of blood spilled by all those generals and emperors so that in glory and triumph they could become the momentary masters of a fraction of a dot. Think of the endless cruelties visited by the inhabitants of one corner of this pixel on the scarcely distinguishable inhabitants of some other corner. How frequent their misunderstandings, how eager they are to kill one another, how fervent their hatreds. Our posturings, our imagined importance, the delusion that we have some privileged position in the universe, are challenged by this point of pale light. Our planet is a lonely speck in the great enveloping cosmic dark. In our obscurity, in all this vastness, there is no hint that help will come from elsewhere to save us from ourselves. The Earth is the only world known so far to harbour life. There is nowhere else, at least in the near future, to which our species could migrate. Visit? Yes. Settle? Not yet. Like it or not, for the moment, the Earth is where we make our stand. It has been said that astronomy is a humbling and character-building experience. There is perhaps no better demonstration of the folly of human conceits than this distant image of our tiny world. To me, it underscores our responsibility to deal more kindly with one another, and to preserve and cherish the pale blue dot, the only home we've ever known. I wanted to start here for two reasons. First, because to me, that excerpt gives a feel for what humanism is about. It's a poetic representation of the worldview. Humanism fundamentally is a response to the challenges of being human, a worldview which seeks to situate us in the cosmos and help us answer big questions about who we are, where we came from, and how we're supposed to live. And if you just want a quick sense of what humanism is about, you just got it. Hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, move on with your day. But second, I start here because every major philosophical commitment of humanism is represented in that short text. And that is what this video is about. In this video, I answer a question that I, as a humanist chaplain, get all the time. What do humanists believe? From our earliest days on the planet, since Homo sapiens became Homo sapiens, since we evolved the ability to think about our own lives, we've been asking big questions, existential and spiritual questions. Why are we here? Where did we come from? What is the meaning of our lives? How should we treat each other? What happens after we die? Religion is, in my view, an attempt to respond to these questions. Fundamentally, religions give us a consistent framework, a worldview which orients us in the cosmos and gives meaning and direction to our lives. Religions answer these great existential and spiritual questions and therefore help us make decisions about how to live. Think of the great religious moral codes, the 10 Commandments, the 5 Pillars of Islam, the Eightfold Path of Buddhism. All are attempts to give us guidance as we navigate the complexities of human life, particularly life with others. Yet for many people, like myself, traditional religious answers to these questions are no longer satisfactory. We look at the stories of the Bible, the Quran, and other religious scriptures and see in them not eternal truths gifted by the creator of the universe, but human written texts filled with cultural stories and moral rules, some amazing, some awful. Enter humanism. Humanism, like the great religious traditions of the world, seeks to give answers to the deepest questions of human existence. Unlike most religious traditions, however, it doesn't look to God or the supernatural for those answers. Instead, we learn from our greatest philosophical insights, from scientific understanding and social knowledge, so that we can discern values that focus on this world and this life. Without looking to an afterlife, we seek to make this world the best it possibly can be for all of us. This is the core of humanism, the conviction that our only life is this life, our only world is this world, our only hope is each other, and this is enough. But what specifically do humanists believe? That's a more difficult question to answer than you might think, because humanism is not a single philosophical perspective. Humanists are not committed to one single view of ethics, epistemology, metaphysics. In every area of philosophy, there's a lot of diversity within the humanist tradition. Nor is humanism organized around a single person or set of texts. While Christianity may be identified by some primary concern with the life and teachings of Jesus, and Islam with some relationship to Muhammad and the Quran, humanism has no founding figure or scripture. Indeed, humanism, as we'll see, is an explicitly anti-dogmatic tradition. We do not think it's right to tie our beliefs too closely to one individual teacher or set of writings. The idea of any single authority or tradition giving us all the right answers about how to live is confusing to humanists. So clearly there's going to be a wide diversity of thought within humanism. There's no one humanist position on almost anything. That doesn't mean that it's not an intelligible tradition, though. It's just a bit looser than some religious traditions in terms of what is included. I personally argue that humanism is best understood as a worldview characterized by a set of 6 philosophical elements. None of these elements are unique to humanism. They can all be found to a greater or lesser extent in other traditions. Nor are they all present to the same degree in every expression of humanism. Some humanisms stress more of these 6 elements or stress them in a different way to others. But I do contend that when you get all these 6 philosophical elements combined into a worldview, that is undeniably some form of humanism. So what are those elements? The 6 fundamental values of humanism are truth, nature, community, growth, goodness, and justice. Now I'm going to take you through each of them and explain what they mean both poetically and philosophically. When I do this, I'm going to be using images and text taken from a book I wrote called The Magic of Humanism. I wrote this book when I was working at my congregation, the Ethical Society of St. Louis, a few years ago. You can find the book for free on their website, and I'll put the link in the description. All the photos were taken by the extremely talented Chris Tabor, and you can find his website at skytabor.com. I'll put that link in the description too. We begin with truth. Humanists seek the truth. We discard dogma and are skeptical of certainty, embracing the provisional nature of everything we now believe. We appreciate that as our understanding grows, we will need to develop and revise our beliefs, even to the point of discarding cherished convictions. We take no scripture or figure to be an ultimate authority. All exists to be questioned, revised, and, if necessary, replaced. We reject revelation and received wisdom, and instead seek to harness the power of the human intellect individually and collectively. We seek out evidence, employ reason, discuss our ideas with others, and draw our own conclusions. In philosophical terms, this means that humanists put reason at the top of our epistemic hierarchy. In matters of truth, there is no higher authority than reason. This in turn means that humanism is committed to fallibilism, the idea that our beliefs can be wrong and that we have to revise and improve them, and to non-dogmatism, the idea that we shouldn't be wedded too closely to one set of ideas or perspectives. So you can see why science might be of special importance to humanists, because science brings together that fallibilism and non-dogmatism into a social practice that distills the best ways of getting at truth in the minds of humanists, at least. And you can see that reverence for science and for the world revealed by science in the text I opened with by Carl Sagan, based on an image only made possible by advances in science and technology. You may at this point say, well, religious people care about truth too. Christians like science too. Muslims like science too. And that is, of course, correct. As I said, none of these values are distinct to humanism. They're not uniquely expressed by humanism as a tradition. But there is something distinctive about how humanism puts reason at the top of its epistemic hierarchy. If you are religious, ask yourself, would you be willing to say that your religious leader had no supernatural insight, had no knowledge beyond what a normal human being could have in their time and place and culture? Would you be willing to say that that religious leader might have been wrong about something, and that we might need to change or update their teachings in the light of what we've now learned? If your answer to those questions is no, then you have established an epistemic authority above reason, and your view is not a humanistic one. And we see this a lot when people are willing to ignore the deliverances of science because their holy text or teacher says something else, whether it's young earth creationism, denial of evolution, or any other of the many ways in the modern world that people put their religious faith over what reason tells us is true. And that is not a humanistic approach to truth. Humanists seek to follow their reason wherever it leads. Next, nature. Humanists stress that we're part of nature, an animal related to all other life on Earth. We evolved from tiny organisms, millennia of changes shaping the simplest life forms into the abundance we see around us. We're part of this cosmos. The same tiny fragments which make us up are the building blocks of every piece of matter in the universe. Everything from a neutron star to a neuron in our brain is made of the same stuff. This is where we came from. Philosophically speaking, this manifests itself in a series of broad positions regarding the relationship of human beings to the cosmos, which makes humanism unusual among religious worldviews. First, humanists tend to be committed to naturalism. That's a contested philosophical term. I personally don't love it, and I'll make a video about why in the future. But basically it means that the natural world is the only world. There's only this. Metaphysically speaking, what you see is what you get. There are no worlds or realms other than the natural world. This leads to one of the most characteristic features of humanism as a worldview. It's non-theism. Humanists tend to proceed from the assumption that there is no God and focus on this life. This leads to one of the most distinctive characteristics of humanism as a worldview. It's non-theism. Humanists tend to proceed as if there is no God and focus on this life, the one life we know we have. Sometimes that manifests itself in a strict atheism, sometimes in agnosticism, sometimes even in deism. The key point is that we do not believe that gods are playing any role at all in shaping human life or destiny, either because they don't exist, which is what most humanists believe, or because they're not interested in us. I guess they're washing their hair or something. In the quote that I opened with, you can see this distinctive naturalistic view of nature, both in the vision of the cosmos Sagan provides, his idea that the Earth is merely a very small stage in a vast cosmic arena, and we have no privileged position in that universe. And in his claim that there is no hint that help will come from elsewhere to save us from ourselves. This idea that we as human beings are alone and that we have to make our own way is central to the existential quality of humanism. While some suggest that humanists elevate humanity above the rest of reality, sometimes called speciesist, the truth is actually the opposite. Because humanists stress the relationship of human beings with the cosmos, including all other animals, we do not put human beings on an ontologically higher level than other animals. We stress that we are star stuff, related to absolutely everything else, and a normal part of nature. Next, community. Humanists recognize that we are both unique individuals and part of the human species. Thus, we're part of a global community similar to all other humans. We understand that human beings thrive in community, like hives of bees and prides of lions. We were born to be in connection with one another. Although we are all unique, we are members of the same species, and so we share a huge amount in common. Humanists appreciate our need for one another and recognize that it is only through community that we can live our best lives. We see in our shared humanity a basis for solidarity, a bedrock of shared experiences and concerns that enables us to communicate and cooperate. On this common ground, all humans stand together and can connect with each other despite our differences. So while honouring our uniqueness, humanists seek to engender fellow feeling between all people and ultimately to create one community of humankind. Philosophically speaking, you could call this a commitment to universalism, not the Christian theological concept that everyone will be saved, but belief in the idea that there are universals in human experience that connect us to each other, and also cosmopolitanism, an outlook that stresses that diversity is a strength and the importance of building relationships across boundaries and the possibility of doing so. In the opening Carl Sagan quote, you can hear Sagan's belief in the oneness of the human community, in when he stresses how small our differences seem from the cosmic perspective. Think of the endless cruelties, he encourages us, visited by the inhabitants of one corner of this pixel on the scarcely distinguishable inhabitants of another corner. The fact that we humans are, from a cosmic perspective, scarcely distinguishable from each other, and therefore capable of living in community with each other, informs humanist ethics and our notion of justice, as we'll see just a little later. Next, growth. We yearn to be more than we are, stronger, smarter, kinder, better. We have within us a drive to learn and grow. When we're born, we need to grow just to survive, physically and mentally. Growth is a necessity. And as we age, our instinct to grow broadens. We are curious, seeking after new knowledge. We are competitive sometimes. We seek to be the best. We delight in new experiences and strive to learn new skills. Growth is part of who we are. And humanists are committed to our personal growth and to the creation of a society in which everybody can pursue their own growth as they wish. Humanists want to make a world where each of us can more fully live into the values that I've been talking about in this video, where we can uncover more truths which help us live, contribute more to our community, try to fill our lives with more goodness, becoming better people, and trying to bring about a more just world. And this commitment to growth is best understood, I think, as a desire to promote human flourishing and welfare. We might call it, if we were being fancy, a eudaimonic drive. Eudaimonia being a term from Greek philosophy basically meaning human flourishing. Now, this commitment is less evident in the Carl Sagan quote than others, but it's still present there when you see that text in the context of his entire work. Because Sagan saw the very process of scientific discovery as one feature of our growth as a species, our desire to learn. And he's clearly enamored with all the possibilities for future learning about ourselves and about the cosmos that the Voyager project represented. Now, goodness. We strive to do good. Humanists don't believe there is a single set of rules which will lead you to live a good life. Sorry, if I knew those rules, I would tell you, but we don't think there are any. There's no humanist commandments. Nor do we promote a single vision of goodness to which all are exhorted to follow. Instead, we encourage people to develop a process of discernment such that even in highly complex situations, we can work out an ethical outcome. In all our ethical thinking, humanists are guided by one overriding principle. We seek to uphold the worth and dignity of all people. Humanists affirm the intrinsic worth and dignity of people, and we hate to see that dignity diminished. That humanist commitment has guided humanists across history to fight for democratic governance, the rights of people to make decisions about their own bodies and lives, for equality and against oppression and injustice. If we want to put a fancy philosophical label on this commitment, it would be dignitarianism. The idea that every person has inherent dignity and that normative demands arise from that. Now, this is, of course, a sketch of a complex philosophical view, and a lot of criticism of humanism, especially from Christian apologists, target this commitment to human dignity, asking, how can you, humanist, ground this idea in a naturalistic world? Or saying, perhaps you stole this idea of human dignity from Christians. Now, I'm not going to defend these ideas here. That's not the purpose of this video. I'm just outlining what humanists do believe. In later videos, I will seek to defend each of these values. But here I will point out that the humanist commitment to dignity is distinct from many religious commitments to dignity, in that it places respect for personhood above all other ethical concerns. While many religious traditions are willing ultimately to sacrifice the dignity of persons if they believe that that would honor the dictates of their God or their tradition. You see this commitment to human dignity in Sagan's exhortation that we have a responsibility to deal more kindly with one another, and again in his emphasis on everything human beings share. Finally, justice. Humanists fight for justice. We hope to create a world in which no person is enslaved, no one is ensnared in poverty, and no one is limited through lack of education. Racism, sexism, homophobia, and all forms of structural injustice are anathema to humanists, who deplore all violations of human dignity. Humanists work to create a shared world, a global community in which the fruits of the earth and power over it are shared equally between all people. Humanists believe that if justice is to be advanced, it must be by human hands. The cosmos cares nothing for justice and has no moral arc. We must make the world just, and it's our duty to forge ahead on the road to a more just world. Humanists historically have heeded this call for justice by protesting in the streets, lobbying national governments and international institutions, and forever working toward a world in which the dignity of every person is fully realized. Philosophically, we can call this both anti-fatalism, the idea that there's no fate, our future is not set in stone, but instead we get to shape it for ourselves, and meliorism, the idea that the world can be improved by human effort. Sagan, in the quote I open with, invokes this humanist desire for justice in his reference to the rivers of blood spilled by all those generals and emperors so that they could become the momentary masters of a fraction of a dot. So those are the 6 commitments of humanism: truth, nature, community, growth, goodness, and justice. These all interconnect. How we pursue justice must be informed by our understanding of what is true, who is truly privileged and oppressed, which tactics genuinely achieve social change. Our desire to grow as individuals is related to our need for community, because there are many skills we can only develop when we're in relationship with others. Our commitment to goodness is informed by our understanding of our nature as evolved organisms and what is, as a matter of fact, good for animals like us. And the interconnected nature of these 6 values is why humanism is best understood as a worldview or life stance. It is a comprehensive network of values which work together to inform how we should live and help us tackle all the challenges life throws at us as we answer the big questions. This has just been a very short introduction of the positive beliefs that humanists hold. There are, of course, many unanswered questions. For instance, while I've outlined the 6 values that I think are central to humanism, I haven't defended any of them. I could make whole videos about each one, and I will. Look out for them on the channel. But I hope for now you have a deeper understanding of the positive beliefs humanists hold. Like the video, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the depths.